All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever felt like there's this unwanted guest living inside your head? You know, the one that just loves to stir up trouble for seemingly no reason at all? Well, today we're going to unpack a really powerful idea from Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. It's a concept that gets to the heart of so much of our inner turmoil, and he calls it the pain body.
So let's start with this quote from Tolle because it's a bit of a mind bender. Strictly speaking, you don't think, thinking happens to you. Whoa, think about that for a second. What he's saying is that a lot of the chatter we hear in our heads isn't something we're consciously doing. It just happens. It's almost involuntary, kind of like mental static running on a loop in the background. It's that voice that just will not stop talking.
Right? So that naturally leads to the big question. If we're not the ones in the driver's seat for this constant stream of thoughts, this endless loop of judging and worrying, then what exactly is this voice? Where is it coming from?
Well, Tolle gives this whole thing a name that's actually pretty simple but also incredibly profound. He calls it the pain body. So let's dig in and figure out what that really means.
Okay, so here's the core idea. Picture this. Every single time you feel a negative emotion, anger, sadness, fear, and you don't fully feel it, you don't let it pass through you, a little bit of that emotional energy gets left behind. It's like a residue. Now, imagine that happening over and over, your whole life. All those little bits of unresolved pain start to clump together, and eventually they form this energy field, an almost independent entity that lives inside of you.
And this quote from Oprah is just such a powerful, gut-wrenching example of how this all starts. She's talking about being forced to literally swallow her pain as a child, to pretend it didn't happen. That right there, that's the perfect recipe for creating a pain body. All that unresolved energy, all that emotion with nowhere to go, it had to get stored somewhere.
So yeah, these feelings, they don't just vanish into thin air. Nope. They merge together, they take on a life of their own, and they create this active energy field inside of us. And for a lot of the time, it might just lie there, dormant, but it's always waiting, just waiting for the right trigger to wake it up. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, and a little creepy, honestly. This pain body, it isn't just a passive blob of old emotions. It's active. It needs to feed to survive. And what it feeds on is probably something you're very familiar with.
Basically, the pain body's favorite food is more pain. It's an energy form that is literally addicted to unhappiness. So it will subtly, subconsciously push you to create the very thing it feeds on. It'll get you looping on negative thoughts. It'll make you pick a fight with your partner over nothing. It'll have you scrolling for bad news or watching a really violent movie. And the key thing to realize is it's not you that wants this stuff. It's the pain body, just trying to get its next meal.
So the obvious question is, if this thing is living inside us and constantly trying to feed, how in the world do we stop it? Well, Tolle points to this really beautiful, simple metaphor from the natural world. He tells the story of two ducks. And this comparison just lays it all out so clearly. You've got two ducks, they get into a little tiff. What do? They flap their wings like crazy for a few seconds, literally shaking off the excess energy. And then, it's over. They just swim away in peace. But us humans, we do the exact opposite. We have a conflict, and then our minds grab onto it. We replay the event over and over. We build this whole narrative around it, a me and my story of being wronged. And by doing that, we keep that negative emotion alive indefinitely. We're basically serving up a gourmet meal for the pain body.
Okay, so now let's zoom out a little bit. Because this whole pain body thing, it's not just an individual problem. It actually operates on a much, much bigger scale, creating what you could call a collective shadow.
So in the exact same way that one person can accumulate pain, entire groups can too. You see it in families where unresolved trauma gets passed down from one generation to the next. You see it in entire nations that hold on to historical grievances for centuries. You see it in races carrying the immense pain of persecution or slavery, or in women carrying the pain from millennia of suppression. These collective pain bodies are incredibly powerful, and they can shape the thoughts and actions of millions of people, often completely unconsciously.
And this quote really gets to the heart of it. For what you do to others, you do to yourself. The crucial thing to understand here is that this cycle of pain doesn't just harm the victim. Tolle's point is that the person inflicting the pain also suffers. It creates this shared pool of pain that just keeps echoing into the present, affecting everyone connected to it.
Okay, I know this all sounds pretty heavy, right? This deep-rooted thing that's personal and collective. So how on earth do you even begin to break free from it?
Well, the good news is the first step is actually way simpler than you might think.
And here is the absolute key. The secret is not to fight the pain body. You don't try to reason with it, you don't try to push it down, because fighting it is a form of negative energy, and that just feeds it. The real turning point, the real power, comes from one simple act: becoming aware of it. Just noticing it the moment it wakes up.
So here's how it works in practice. Let's say a really strong negative emotion just flares up inside you, maybe totally out of proportion to what just happened. Step 1 is just to notice it. Instead of getting swept away by the emotion, you take a mental step back, and you just say to yourself, okay, this is the pain body. That's it. That simple act of naming it creates a space. It separates you, the observer, from the emotion. And once you're in that space of just watching it, without judging it or getting sucked into its story, you cut off its food supply. You're literally starving it.
And this final quote just brings it all home so perfectly. Nothing ever happened in the past that can prevent you from being present now. What that means is that the pain body, which is just a collection of old pain from the past, only has power over you right now if you let its story take over your present moment. Your awareness, your presence, that's the key that unlocks you from the prison of the past.
And that leaves us with one last, really empowering question to think about. The pain body is, above all, a master storyteller, right? It spins these incredible tales of victimhood and anger and fear. But what happens to that unwanted houseguest when you just stop believing its stories? What kind of freedom do you think is waiting for you in that silence?